and welcome to WJ's podcast. I'm Samar Jahanban, and today we are with a very special guest. If you would like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Olivia. I'm a senior at Walter Johnson.
Great. And so, as seniors, something very important is coming up, which is graduation, which could be really exciting depending on how you felt about this entire year. But with graduation comes with a lot of weird changes, especially for senior year, as I feel like all of our senior years have been completely different in what we originally thought it was going to be. And with graduation, you start to think of a lot of changes, and not only just where you're going to college, but also your like entire future.
Yeah.
So I want to start talking about like how senior year has been, just in general overall, like from September to now, how has it been for you?
Honestly, I feel like I haven't really had a senior year, to be honest. I think like it's been a year, I would say. It just felt like a regular school year. I mean, not regular, obviously, but like just a normal, not graduating senior year. I mean, I think that online school has been an interesting experience, and I think that hopefully in the future, maybe like June, we can have some in-person senior activities. That would be nice. Then I would probably feel a bit more like a senior, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I haven't really ended junior year, so
Yeah.
uh,
So like, I get it. It's like I feel like this was all just like a really like long continuation. And I remember like before the end of junior year, I was like, this is all just gonna be over. And then when September started and they released like the calendar for the entire year, I kind of started going through like the stages of grief.
yeah.
And like the entire fall, I was like, you're not gonna get a senior year. Like it was like, oh, homecoming's canceled. And I was like, okay, whatever. And they're like, you might not have prom. Graduation is on like a little 50-50. So, and I was just like, okay, totally.
Yeah, definitely. I like was going through old videos and I found this video from last year. It was like maybe the day after we got out of school, and I like was just talking to my sister. I was like, "Well, it's day 2 of the COVID break." And I'm like, "Oh, break, that's funny." But I don't know. It felt like it would be fun when we had 2 weeks off, and then it just kept extending, and now it's like I wouldn't say it's been a bad experience necessarily. I just think it's been very different than someone would usually describe their senior year.
Especially and like with college applications, for me it's been a little like too stressful sometimes because junior year you have this one idea of how you're going to apply to college, and all your counselors are telling you do like steps 1, 2, 3, and then you apply to college, and that's great. But then not only have like acceptance rates gotten lower because more students are applying, but also there's test optional now. Like colleges are looking at you in a different way. And so now in like early fall, when I went to help with my counselors, it's like, well, we're figuring it all out.
Right. Yeah, it was interesting like when you needed help. I mean, you could get it, but also it's like no one really knows what's going to happen, which usually, I mean, no one knows what's ever going to happen usually, but they have more of a grasp on things, I would say. I mean, it's no one's fault, obviously. It's just definitely been interesting because everyone's sort of going through things at their own pace and figuring it out by themselves, but we're also doing the same thing as like everyone else in our grade. And I guess people just need to talk about it more so then they know that they're not the only one doing like who's going through something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like very strange. It's also like this entire year has also changed the way I think about a lot of stuff, like especially with like grades and stuff, where our grades are a lot more kind of like on a seesaw rather than like a finite, like determinant for like how you're supposed to like advance in your future.
Yeah, definitely. I think that with my grades, I remember at the beginning or at the end of junior year, I was so stressed out because I remember like when we had the 2 weeks off, I had a retake the next week, and that was like going to determine my entire grade. And then I was like, "Oh no, what do I do? I can't do the retake." And then like and now when you think about it in perspective, it's like it was just a retake and you're going through a pandemic. Like,
Yeah,
it's
like
fine.
even in previous years, I was always so obsessed with my grades, and I would like shed a single tear every time I got like a B or a C. I'm like, part of me would like cry a little bit, but like if I could look back on myself now, I'd be like, you're fine. This one grade or this one letter on your report card is not gonna be the end of the world.
Yeah, definitely. I think people tend to make a very big deal out of that because that's just always, I guess, what society tells you to do. Like even like movies, like you always have to get the good grades or any of like all that stuff to be successful. And I think that's really just not true because everyone is like you can find your own thing. It doesn't have to be something that you need necessarily the best and like straight A's for. And I think that people have definitely become more lenient with grading this year. And I think it'll be interesting to see how that causes changes in the future in like MCPS or just colleges and all of that. Not that we'll experience it, but the grades below us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with like not just grades, but also a standardized testing. Like I was not able to take a single SAT this
Yeah.
entire like year and a half. I tried to like sign up, but they kept canceling and canceling. And so like I was really stressed, like this is a SAT, like I need to take this, I need to take this. And then like colleges like left and right were like, oh, it's test optional, test optional. But like
Right.
that still was a big stressor because like for almost your entire like high school career, like it's always like the SAT or the ACT, like those were the things that got you into college.
Hmm.
But now without them, like yes, many people have extracurriculars, many people have, grades or other interests outside of school, but
Yeah.
your
I mean,
score tied in with that.
right. I think like also with standardized testing, I know that like if you don't submit your test scores, it like puts more weight onto your GPA or your extracurriculars and stuff. But like honestly, standardized testing is just really I guess the right word would be like scrutinizing
Yeah.
for students. Like because not everyone's going to fit into that category of just being able to take this 4 hour long test. And especially like I mean I took the ACT a good like I think I took it like 3 times. I got lucky, I was able to get in. But it's so you have to do this like writing, reading, all of that stuff. And like some people just aren't the best at that. And I think that it's honestly great that colleges are like becoming, I guess, more lenient about whether you can submit those because sometimes it's just like you're better at regular school rather than taking this super long, I guess, overwhelming test. Yeah, especially like with science. It's not even like science, it's just reading graphs and like you have to do it in like 30 minutes. I'm like, you don't that's not real life usually. I mean, I don't know what job would actually do that, but
And like I
um,
see so many adults being like, "Oh, I remember when I took like the SAT or ACT. It meant absolutely nothing in my adult life." I'm
yes.
like, "Well, great. Now why do I have to take it?"
I know, yeah. Honestly, that like can apply to so many things that we learn in general. Like I'm taking AP calculus, and I actually really like the class. But then I'm like, we're doing like derivatives or something. I'm like, I want to go into political science. I'm not gonna need to use
Yeah.
that.
And
Oh,
especially like sometimes for history classes, I'm like, it's okay if you don't remember every single person in the entire like history textbook. Like you're fine.
yeah. Honestly, like even with like I want to do like study government and all that, but then I've been watching like Dawson's Creek, for example, or like Gilmore Girls, and they because they were filmed in like early 2000s, their classes that they're portraying, they're testing the students on these random people and like random facts and like they just have to memorize it on the spot. And I'm like, well, actual school isn't really like that, but in a way like it is because we have to remember all the stuff that like we're not going to need to know and like we don't learn how to deal with money or how to like invest for our future and all of that. And I'm like,
Sometimes I feel like I'm learning like I'm in a trivia show that I didn't ask to be in.
I know, yeah, that's a good way of putting it,
Yeah,
honestly.
like why do I have to remember this? Like, the main excuse is like, well, you need to get good grades. So in order to get good grades, you have to know X, Y, and Z. I'm like, okay, great. But why, like, what importance does this lead for the rest of my life?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like I feel like if you want to study that sort of stuff, then yes, that's great. I mean, learning about like history can be good to like advance your career or like your knowledge, and then you can apply that to sort of like all sorts of things. But then if you don't want to learn about that stuff, if you're interested in like STEM or any of that stuff, like why do you need to bother going through the really deep, I guess, topics that don't really have much importance? Just like you're just regurgitating them on back onto tests. And I just don't really understand that either.
You learn so much, like you learn so much facts and little like one, two, threes, but you know, never learn how to kind of apply that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice
Yeah.
to like learn skills rather than just like
Yeah, exactly.
facts or like certain bits of information.
Right. Yeah. Like you can learn all of that stuff if you then can learn how to apply it, because then that actually leaves an impact on you.
Mhm.
Like I can tell you right now, I don't remember anything that I learned in like chemistry or physics. And I took physics like last year. And maybe I don't know exactly how you would teach how to apply that necessarily. I mean, maybe like with planes flying or stuff. I actually really wanted to learn how planes fly, and they never taught us, and I was really disappointed about it. But I don't know. I feel like definitely if they just learned how to teach in a more like a way that we can then apply that to our lives in the future, I think students would honestly be a lot more eager to learn if they're not right now.
Yeah, totally. And this entire year of being able to like have time to think about how, you know, school has affected you, it's also like kind of changed the way I want to like go with my future.
Mhm.
Because before, when like no one really had time to like sit down and think about anything, it was just like school, go home, do school, do whatever activity you needed to do and do that, go to sleep and like continue with the day. It was always like, okay, I'll do this and I'll go to college and I'll do this and I'll do that. But
Yeah.
then once quarantine happened and it was like, oh, you sit down for like a year in your house, you start to think a lot more.
Yes.
And
That's
like
true.
all of like the future plans that I had kind of they never necessarily went away, but they kind of like got disfigured in this weird way, like, and not just for school but also, you know, personal ones like family vacations out the window.
Hmm.
Like wanting to be able to travel to go places that went away. Thinking about, you know, college visits and stuff, can't do that. I have to like look online and figure out what their schools look like. And I want to ask, like, how has like your future decisions changed, if at all, or how have you thought about, you know, maybe where you want to go to college or what you want to do with your life?
I mean, I think that what you said was definitely right. Like we were just moving so quickly and then you just stopped like all of a sudden. And I think my college decision was sort of in the works before COVID. I was lucky. I was able to visit the college that I'm going to now, or going to next year in February. So, like, literally right before. And I think that COVID has just made me enjoy right now, I would say, in like the present. And I don't know how much it's changed, like, my future plans, because I still have no idea what I would like to do. Like that hasn't really changed. But I think I'm just way more, I guess, not future oriented. I would say I'm just hanging out here for a little while because I feel like in before COVID, it was just like, as you say, you have to go to school, you go to practice, and then you're gonna do all that, and then you go to college, and it's like one thing right after another. And I think that I've just been able to slow down a bit more, which can be good, but also bad.
Yeah.
um, so I don't know. I think my plans are still, I guess, where they were. I think I just maybe was able to become more confident in my like college decision, I would say.
And I feel like for at least for me, like freshman to junior year is always like get good grades so you can like go to college and then get into college, get into school, get good grades, just work hard and do that. And like now that I'm sure a lot of us have already gone into colleges, even if we didn't, you know, accept anything yet. Like now it's just like I've been able to kind of think about, well, I got in, so you
Right.
know, it's not that oh, I'm gonna fail all my classes now. It's just like the pressure to succeed and to like do the best isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
I already did it. I already did what I was supposed to do.
Right.
I applied. you got the letters and now you're in this like weird kind of waiting period of like, well,
Yes.
I just graduate, but like it makes me really appreciative because I can, focus on things I've been wanting to focus on, being able to, be in the present, like you said.
Mhm.
But then at the same time, I like have these moments where I look back, I'm like, well, what was I working for this entire time? Like,
Right.
did I really need to work that hard? Or could I just like take a breath and then still, be where I am today?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think like I applied early decision to my school, and so I knew in like mid-December that I already had gotten in and I committed and all of that. And so then after, like, I mean, I'm still sort of like going through this, but I think it's gotten better. I like have felt very weird because like when you apply early decision, usually it's because like you want to enjoy your senior year. And then I'm like, well, I have like no senior year. So what am I supposed to do? So it's like been really weird because I have just been like waiting. And I think that's like been sort of hard because I like am really excited to go to college, and at the same time I'm like sort of freaked out because I it's like leaving everything that you've like ever known, and I'm like, oh, so it's a weird like position that we're in because like my sister, she's a sophomore and she's just like grades. I need to have these good grades and like all of this stuff. And like she has like she sort of knows what she's doing. Because it's sophomore year, so like
Yeah.
you have like sort of a destined path, I would say. Um, but like when you're here, it's like, well, what am I'm just sort of like waiting for college. What
Yeah.
am I supposed to do? I don't know. So that's been a weird thing to deal with, I would say.
Like I'm trying to like find the silver lining in everything of like, oh, at least you have this or at least you have that. That's so weird because like part of me is also really scared for college, not just because like, oh, well, we've been living with our parents our entire lives. It's, difficult for anyone to move out. But it's also we've gotten so used to literally just staying inside and doing school in our houses. So that
Yeah.
like all of a sudden moving out to an like entire new campus, having to go back to not just, oh, like a high school, but to a college class again.
Mhm.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about this like a couple weeks ago, how it's like for literally our entire lives, basically, you have school and then you have summer. And it's like, for me, my summer has always been my sleepaway camp and then my family goes to Maine. And that's been like every year consistently, pretty much. And so I had like sleepaway camp, Maine, back to school, sleepaway camp, Maine, back to school. And so it's always been like this straight pattern, I would say. And now I guess it's about to be totally disrupted. And that totally freaks me out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Like it's definitely scary, but then at the same time, it's very exciting because you get to finally like I don't know. People, I guess kids always dream about like, oh, what I'm gonna do this when I finally leave. But then you're like, you get here and you're like, oh, I don't really want to leave yet.
Yeah. Like as a kid, I remember thinking about college as this like weird like fantasy realm of like, oh my God, like I get to do whatever I want, like, oh, and then now that I'm almost going to be an adult, it's just kind of like, you know what?
Yeah,
Maybe this isn't that bad.
right. I don't know. It's like it's just a lot at once, I would say. And it's not even like here yet, but you already know. You're like preparing yourself that it's going to be so much at once. So I think that's honestly like the waiting is just like as I said, it's just a weird position because you're waiting for something that like you've only imagined
Mhm.
and you don't know what it's actually going to be like. And I think that's also what adds to the scariness of it because like you're preparing yourself for something you don't even know. I mean, no, I'm gonna rephrase that sentence. You're preparing yourself for something that is so uncertain, I would say. And I think that's just really a strange experience.
Yeah, and like I remember throughout high school, I'd always be like, well, everyone goes to college, everyone does this, like it's a normal thing for everybody. And then they grow up and they're like, oh, I remember this time. So like, I always knew like, yeah, you're gonna go to college, you're gonna graduate and do this. But part of me had this weird thing of like, I'll just skip over it and then I'll just skip forward to after college. And
Right.
like I'll be fine. I don't know how else to describe this, but it was like this weird feeling of it'll be there, like it's coming, but like I can just like press the skip button and like go next. But then
Yeah.
now we're almost in April. I'm like, well, I can't press the skip button. I can't exactly just like skip forward or like, wipe my memory. Like I have to face it regardless of what happens.
Yeah, I think honestly, I know what you're saying because I mean, though, like people always say like college is supposed to be this like big experience that totally changes you, and I think that's probably really true.
Mhm.
I just think that because of that, no one just knows like what's going to happen at all.
Yeah.
And like I guess the easier part about just skipping over that and then going to the rest of your life, I feel like you can sort of like imagine that more in a way because of just what I guess society tells you to imagine. Not that everyone's life is going to turn out that way, but I just think it's definitely easier because everyone's college experience is going to be totally different.
Mhm.
So we just don't know what to expect, I would say.
And like with that, I feel like well now we're at a point where many people have already like decided on where they want to go or if they want to go at all. Maybe some people will decide like not to go to college and choose a different path.
Mhm.
And I want to ask like if you're comfortable, like where have you, decided to go and how has like your expectations for, this year been different?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go to Bryn Mawr College, which is in it's a little outside of Philadelphia, and it's a women's college, which I sort of find funny because I remember when I was going on college tours, and my mom and my grandpa set up a whole bunch of schools for me to visit, and they were like, "Okay, we're gonna give you two women's colleges." I'm like, "Women's colleges? No, thank you." But then I actually really loved it. I think I've actually talked to like a whole bunch of people who go there, and that's the pretty most common story is that, oh, I didn't want to look and then I went there and I was like, oh my goodness.
Like
And
that's
so I love
crazy.
yeah, so I'm really excited about that actually. And they have this relationship. It's a so it's a bi-college community, which is between Haverford and Bryn Mawr because they're like 10 minutes away. So it's sort of like two colleges in one in a way, but also not. So it's I don't know. I'm definitely excited about that. And I'm sorry, what was your other question? I got wrapped up in the college.
How has, what actually happened this year for you been different than like what you expected?
Yeah, I mean I definitely didn't expect a pandemic during my
I don't
senior
think anyone did.
year. I honestly don't even know what I expected for my senior year. I expected obviously like the big events and I don't know, like doing things with friends and maybe a boyfriend, but that's what happened. um, so I think I just expected, I guess, the movie type senior
Yeah,
year.
me
And
too.
it's so far from that, which sort of sucks. But honestly, it was probably better in a way because I think I learned things that I probably wouldn't have, and then that has definitely maybe prepared me for college more than the typical senior year would have.
Mhm. Yeah,
If you want to look at the happy side of it.
no, because I think with obviously like last year, I was like senior year is gonna be great. It's gonna be like those like weird teen movies where like everyone like sneaks out in like the middle of the night for no reason. Yeah, totally. It's gonna be like that.
Yeah.
Not even close. And like part of me was like, you know what, just set, somewhat realistic expectations. Like you can go out every other day. Do not go out at all.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I feel like part of me thinks like it kind of went in a slightly positive way, if at all like possible, because at least with what I want to do for college and future, I can like be confident in it and like be sure of it. Because I feel like had we had a normal year, I probably would have like rushed into things a lot more. I'm like, okay, college A, I'll go there, and
Right.
just not think about it at all and like potentially regret it. So
Yeah.
it's really nice to be able to know that wherever I do decide to go, like I'll be sure of it and I'll know like this is what I want to do.
Yeah, that's great. I think honestly, like we've had quarantine and all that, like I feel like it's given us more time to think about this kind of stuff. And I think that's actually a really good thing because I like before all of this, I mean, I can't really speak for everyone, but I was extremely busy like all the time. And I don't really remember like when I had time to just chill out. I don't even know how I like got through a couple of years because I've had so much more free time, which is a little bit sad sometimes, but it's like I think it's also been good because we've just had more time to think about these types of decisions and like to be sure of them, which is really important because we're deciding where we want to go for the next 4 years of our life. And I don't know, I feel like people don't put or no, people put a lot of emphasis on college, but I don't know if they necessarily put the emphasis on how like how overwhelming it can be when you really think about how you're gonna decide like how you're gonna just change your entire life for the next 4 years and you're 17, 18, and you're like, I don't know what I
Like,
want to
I'm a
do.
kid. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's just how it's been for a while, and we're just expected to know. But I think people have gotten better with providing resources for students if they don't know what they want to do or if they don't want to go to college and they want to do something else. So I think that's definitely been good and a little less stressful.
Like, I remember like junior year, like I was so afraid of being sure what I wanted to do. But like I realized it's okay. Like it is fine if you don't know what you want to do for the rest of your life at 16 years old. You're 16. It's okay. Like
Yes.
if even if you're like a senior, like it's fine. Like
Yeah.
I feel like it all just ends up working out eventually. And like if you need time to, think about what you want to do, then like take that time.
Mhm.
Don't
Yeah,
feel pressure to like have, everything together by like this specific date.
right. Yeah, I think honestly, I've always like I know that I want to do something in government, but that's or like study political science, but that's literally it because I have no idea what I want to do from there. And I feel like when you're little, you only hear about like the professions like I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer. And then you sort of like have a clear path for those because those are two specific things that you can do. But then if you want to like go into a broader subject of things of like I don't know, careers. I don't like, there's just so many different paths to take, and some of them you don't even know that you can. And it's a lot, and like, it's definitely a lot to decide if you're a teenager.
Yeah. Yes, I was like, just like take your time. Like even if, like when you go to college and it's like, oh, I don't know, it like that's feel like that's what college is meant to be for. You're not supposed to like know exactly what you want to do right away. Like if you still need time to decide like whatever your major is, whatever you want to do, like use college for that. Explore different options, explore different like, majors or career paths. Maybe you end up like finding a major like that's stupid. I will never major in that. And then you look into it and it's like, oh,
Yeah,
what I
like
want to
that.
do for a living.
Yeah, it's always like, oh, I'm never gonna do this, and then you look into it and you're like, oh, I might change my mind.
Like as a kid, like majority of my family works in healthcare, and I was like, I'm never gonna be like them. Like I don't want to be a doctor. That's so stupid.
Yeah.
And then like towards middle school, I got interested in healthcare, and I was like, that looks cool. Forget what I said earlier.
Yeah, always happens.
And okay, anyway, but that's kind of like the time we have for today. So I want to say congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. This was a great conversation.
Thank you so much. And to any like younger high schoolers, juniors, sophomores, freshmen, it's fine. You're going through probably one of the hardest years of high school you will probably ever have to go through.
Yes.
Hey, if you don't know anything, I'm a senior and I still don't know what I'm doing with my life.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be surprised for about those who do, who
Yeah,
can like give a lesson or something.
please.
Yeah.
Okay. But do you have anything you want to say or
Like final advice, you mean? I don't know. I would say just what you said, like take it easy and there are I think things happen for a reason and I think with COVID, it's definitely been like you have to live through it, and then you have to find,
Mhm.
when you look back on it, you have to find like, oh, what good came out of that. And I feel like that always happens with like every experience. You always have to just look back and be like, oh, that's what I learned, or something like that. So I think that would just be my advice for today. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Thank you so much.